So in this experiment, we will be introducing some variables. Variables are when you hold everything steady in your experiment except you change one thing to see how changing that one thing affects how your experiment goes. In this experiment, we're going to try floating some eggs. Here's my eggs. And I'm going to see what happens if I try to float it in regular water. Let me pour some regular water into this cup. Some water with a little salt added. This is my little salt container right here. It's full of salt. I'm gonna put in 2 tablespoons of salt, which is a lot, but that's okay. There's 1, 2, and I'm going to add water, about the same amount of water as is in the other cup. Now, this water is just cold water from the tap. If it was hot water, then the salt would dissolve a lot faster. But that's okay. We'll just do what we can with what we've got. I'm going to stir this for a little bit. I do not expect all of this salt to dissolve, but I do want it to be a really good salty mixture, because that'll make a difference. I'm going to have another one with sugar. I'll use the dry end of my spoon to scoop out 2 tablespoons of sugar. There's 1 and 2. Add some water again. Now, what do you guys think? Do you think that the egg will float differently in one of these solutions versus another one? Do you think it'll float in the water, or will it sink? And if it does float in the plain water, do you think it'll float in the salt water and the sugar water too, or will it sink in the salt water and the sugar water? Again, I've added a lot of sugar to this solution, and I'm not expecting it all to dissolve, but this will give me a good start on having a sugar water solution right here. Okay, so let's find out what happens. These are 3 eggs that I have, pretty much identical eggs, brown, so you can see them better. And I'm going to put 1 into the water. You guys made your predictions about what's going to happen? I have added an egg to my plain water, and you can see that it has sunk. So now that we know that eggs sink in regular water, do you want to change your guess as to what's going to happen? Change your hypothesis about water with salt in it or water with sugar in it? I think we'll find out. Here is an egg going into the water and salt solution. It sank. Maybe. It sank, but it sank very slowly, and it's just very nearly floating. If it were just hanging out and, oh, it's almost got neutral buoyancy. Neutral buoyancy is when something doesn't sink or float, but this does sink. It just barely sinks. So knowing that about the salt, what do you suppose is going to happen with the sugar water? Let's find out. Oh, it sank even slower in the sugar water. Oh, it's coming back up.
It's bobbing.
Oh, this does have neutral buoyancy in the sugar. Look at that. Is it touching the bottom? No, it's not. It's not touching the bottom. Can you see?
It's slightly hovering.
Oh, cool. Okay, which makes me wonder if if we had more salt in the saltwater solution, if this one would also be neutrally buoyant. I don't know. I added the same amount of salt and sugar. It's so close, isn't it? Okay, well, how'd you do? Did you make those predictions? Now we have seen what happens when you introduce one variable. What happens when you add something to water? It changes the buoyancy. Now we know.